Welcome back to the English Language Learning Podcast. This is a headline episode where you, the listener, will listen to me read briefly or shortly from a news article from AP News, Associated Press. The intent, the objective for you is exposure. Mais tamanho de amostra, to have more sample size, to get listening practice, to expand your vocabulary, and to engajar com conteúdo no inglês. So here we go. I will read the headline to you. The title, right? A headline is a news title. I will first read to you the headline. After that, in the next segment, we will read a few lines or sentences or details from the article. And then finally, at the end, we will go over or review the vocabulary. Not all of the vocabulary, but the more difficult parts. And then finally, at the end, we will do a questions and conversation segment. So here we go. The headline for today from apnews.com by Marcia Dunn, MarciaDunn, from November 1st, 2022. SpaceX nails booster landings after Foggy military launch. 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 And one more time. A reminder, you can slow down the audio if this is too fast. If it's too easy, well, that's good. I imagine for most people, though, it will not be too easy. It'll be a little bit difficult or very difficult. So again, the title, SpaceX nails booster landings after Foggy military launch. That is the headline. We will read now a few sentences from the article. This is a very short article. SpaceX, we'll start here. SpaceX is the company started by Elon Musk, the rocket company. It's a private business that is now the leader in sending spaceships or rockets into space and landing them on Earth after, right? In the NASA programs, there was not rockets landing, right? There were shuttles that were attached to rockets. The shuttle and the rocket would go into space. The rocket would blow up. The shuttle would continue. And then at the end of the trip, at the end of the journey, the space shuttle would have to basically just fall down into the ocean from space. And then, people would go rescue the pilots. SpaceX is now famous for reusing rockets, right? Not space shuttles attached to rockets. No, rockets going up and coming back down and being used again. So the landing portion, the landing part was kind of the breakthrough. Okay, here we go. From the article from Cape Canaveral, Florida. SpaceX launched its Mega Falcon Heavy rocket for the first time in more than 3 years Tuesday, hoisting satellites for the military and then nailing side-by-side booster landings back near the pad, or the landing pad. Thick fog shrouded NASA's Kennedy Space Center as the rocket blasted off at mid-morning. The crowd at the launch site couldn't even see the pad 3 miles away, 5 kilometers, but heard the roar of the 27 first-stage engines. This was SpaceX's fourth flight of a Falcon Heavy That's the name of the rocket. Falcon Heavy. Currently the most powerful rocket in use. The first, in 2018, launched SpaceX chief Elon Musk's red Tesla convertible. That's right, that's when they launched his car into space. The next two heavy launches followed in 2019, lifting satellites. That is our reading today. There's a little bit more in the article. You can look it up online, but that's where we'll stop for today. In the next segment, we'll break down, review, we will investigate, and examine the vocab. We're back for our vocab segment. We read the title. We read through a few details from the article. SpaceX nails landing after Foggy launch. Now we will look at and examine, investigate. We will go over the vocab from the article so that you can kind of start to make sense of some of the more difficult segments or words. You can read the article too on the internet, apnews.com. SpaceX nails booster landings after Foggy launch by Marcia Dunn. So let's start with the vocab now. To nail something. This is a focus word from the headline. This is the reason I chose the headline. This is a very common expression in English. To nail something. Nailed it. He really nailed it. Or hey, you nailed it. Good job. To nail something. To nail something. First, N-I-A-L. N-A-I-L, excuse me. N-A-I-L. Same as uña or prego, right? And we're not going to use the connection to uña, mas prego sim. So prego, the tool, right? The thing that you use to, when you take a hammer, a martello, and you hit it. So that is kind of the visualization of this expression. But to nail something is to do something perfectly correct, to say something correct. Para adivinhar, to guess something correct, to get something perfectly correct. So I think in Portuguese we'll go with acertar, fazer, adivinhar, ou falar alguma coisa com sucesso, right? To do it right, to do it correctly. There's an expression I got from the internet. I've never used this. I don't know if it is a bad translation or not, but I think it works. Acertar em cheio. Acertar em cheio. But I have never used that expression, so hopefully someone could give me feedback. Foggy. Foggy. This is in the title too. Foggy. F-O-G-G-Y. Foggy. Not clear. Not clear. Nebuloso, obscuro, brumoso, enevoada, cloudy, not clear. This could be, right, if you visited San Francisco, foggy. You can't, it's not, things are not visible. Or this could be figurativo, something is foggy. My understanding is foggy. In the article, no, it's literal, it's physical. They're talking about the environment, the climate for a space rocket launch, and the environment, the weather for the day was foggy. To hoist, H-O-I-S-T, to hoist. Levar, levantar, icar, to carry, to hold something. You can hoist a flag. Where was this in a satellite? A rocket can hoist, can raise or carry a satellite to space. Lifting satellites, levando satellites, carrying. So that's the same as hoist. That is it. This is a very short article from AP. It's only 4 paragraphs, maybe even not many more sentences, maybe about 10 sentences. So if you have any more doubts about vocab, you can ask me in the comments section. Otherwise, that is it for our episode vocab. The next segment will be questions and conversation relating to SpaceX and space in general. Let's start our final segment on SpaceX nails landing. There's not much in the article to talk about. there's a rocket that some humans put into space, and then it came back down. So, but we have some questions. Remember, for question segments, I will try and read the questions in Portuguese as well. This podcast is intended for Brazilian language learners. Excuse me, for Brazilian language learners. So that is why I'm reading them in Portuguese. But here we go. A couple decades in the past, rocket launches into space would be watched by many people on TV with collective amazement, right? People sitting in front of the TV watching a rocket lift off or fire or launch from Earth into orbit, into space. Espanto coletivo. But not anymore. This doesn't happen really anymore. This is such a different time, right? People are not sitting around watching a space launch. Most people don't even talk about or notice or care about a rocket launching into space. So my question for you, do you take any interest in humans launching rockets into space? Is this something that is interesting to you? Not necessarily in the past, right? Not like the first, do you think humans in space is interesting? No, I'm talking about each subsequent space launch. Is it fascinating to you? Is it exciting? Does it interest you? So again, the question, do you take or do you have any interest in humans launching rockets into space or not? If you are interested, tell me why. What about it is interesting? Do you like the physics? Do you like the fascination with space? Is it because of science fiction, the connection to science fiction films and literature? Or not? Why not? If you're not interested, is it because you don't think there's any relation to your life? It's a waste of money. It's a rich people's hobby. What is it? So, do you take any interest in humans launching rockets into space? Portuguese. I think the only word here in Portuguese that I would need to refresh, and I'm doing that right now, is launch. I know rocket is foguete. To launch. Lançar. Let's see it. In Português, você tem algum interesse em nos humanos lançando foguete no espaço ou não? Number 2, do you think space trips or space travel should be the territory of private business or the public domain? Dominio publico. Do you think that space trips or space travel should be the territory of private business or public domain? And if you want to explain what you think, right? I think some people listen to the podcast. Hopefully some people listen. Some people might be writing down responses. Some people might want to comment. Some people might not do either of those, and you're just thinking about your responses in English. But explain your response. Why should space travel be private industry, or why should space travel be public industry? Or is there something in the middle, right? Some versions of space travel should be public and some versions of it should be private. So você acha que as viagens no espaço deve ser o território ou domínio da indústria privada ou público? E por quê? Number 3, if someone offered you a ticket to ride in a rocket that would orbit the Earth for a short time, not for a long time, right? This is minutes or 30 minutes or less in space. Would you accept it? If someone offered you a ticket to ride in a rocket that would orbit the Earth for a short time, would you accept it or not? And why? So, se alguma pessoa oferece ingresso para uma corona num foguete no órbito do planeta Terra, só brevemente, você aceitaria ou não? E por quê? Personally, for me, I am not a thrill seeker, so it's not the rocket trip that would be exciting, right? Because those go extremely fast, and that would, I think, for some people, a trip in a rocket would be, the appeal would be speed, adrenaline. For me, it's, I guess, more classical, looking at Earth from space. I think I would take it. The other mention, the other consideration is risk, right? It seems pretty safe now. I'm not reading about manned any manned spacecraft exploding and people dying. So, but the risk and the fear of death would be difficult. But yeah, I think I would accept it to be able to see Earth from not being on Earth. I think would be fascinating. What's next? Yeah, okay. At one point in history, Brazil was a leader in developing aircraft voadoras. Arguably, or pode discutir, arguably being the country of origin for humans flying in an actual airplane. So Brazil had a place in this industry, in this exploration in the past. Do you have any desire for a Brazilian reinvestment in airspace innovation or air travel or space technology, even, right? And kind of having some sort of NASA department. Do you have any desire? Você tem alguma vontade? Do you have any desire? Algum desejo? Do you have any desire for a Brazilian reinvestimento in airspace innovation, no espaço aéreo, inovação no indústria de espaço aéreo ou tecnologia do espaço aéreo, that one for me, the aéreo. So this is something unique, right, to the U.S., to the European Space Agency. Russia has a long history with cosmonauts and their space program. India now has a space program. Brazil has, right, Santos Dumont, invented, right? You ask a Brazilian person who invented air travel, airplanes. It was Santos Dumont. But this is gone now in Brazil. As far as I know, as a regular dude living in Brazil, I don't see, and there's no NASA that I'm aware of. I've never heard of a Brazilian NASA. Brazil has obvious is the wrong word. Brazil has well-known money problems, and the currency is not as strong as the dollar. And there's a lot of poor people who need food and basic things here on Earth. But NASA, right, has created a lot of things that have helped humans on Earth too. So I'll ask the question again in English and then in Portuguese. Do you have any desire or wish or hope for a Brazilian reinvestment in airspace innovation? Let me try that in Portuguese now. Você tem alguma vontade para reinvestimento brasileiro na indústria na inovação na indústria do espaço aéreo? Do you have any desire for a Brazilian reinvestment in airspace innovation? Well, I can't answer this. I'm not Brazilian. As an American who has lived, you know, in the time where space travel was kind of dead and not something that we focused on because of some, well, I don't really know why. Maybe the podcast is too short to to investigate why or to chat about why. But NASA as an American, yeah, I think NASA is something that it gives Americans pride. It gives me pride, orgullo, nay, to have NASA, to have places in the world, to have inventions, innovations that are because of NASA. It's one of the agencies that doesn't seem to be terribly corrupted by capitalism or human ambition, or, I mean, human ambition in the sense of we haven't blown up the moon. We haven't invaded Mars. You know, we haven't killed anyone in space yet, so we're not doing bad things in space yet. Obviously, there are satellites, and those are used for many different horrible events on Earth, but also most of the good stuff. We need that technology. So I take pride in NASA. If NASA disappeared tomorrow, I would be upset. I would be, you know, calling my representatives in California and saying, "Hey, man, this is not right. This is an American. Um, it's as American as apple pie, right? Baseball, apple pie, and NASA being one of our points of pride, and it creates NASA creates for the world, not always quickly, not always cheaply, right? But there are many things that I think the list is quite long of inventions that come from NASA that were not intended for the market, but because they were invented for space travel, people introduced them to the world. A funny topic, actually, culturally, right? Most Americans don't know about those things. In Brazil, you have NASA beds, you have the NASA pillows. That I mean, if you go buy a pillow and you want the specific type of pillow, it's called a NASA pillow. We don't have that in the U.S. It's called Tempur-Pedic. So we don't. Americans don't really know what things come from NASA, which is sad because a lot of. Let's just do a quick. I don't really have great internet in the studio, but there are a lot of everyday things that people use that were invented by NASA, a public, right? A public institution, right? People like to hate on taxes and where tax money goes, but if they understood, si eles entenderam how many things come from their public funding of just NASA, I think it would give a different level of respect for public institution. But so I think Brazilians would know more about NASA inventions and innovations than Americans. Our next question. When you were a child, did you like space and rockets and the solar system? And if no, why not? When you were a child, did you like space and rockets and the solar system? Was that something that interested you, or was it not interesting to you? I have a 3-year-old daughter. One of our first books we got her was about in English about the solar system. She loved it. She still does. She loves dolls. she loves a lot of things. I'm not sure if she has a special love for space and the solar system and rockets, but she's a girl. It's difficult to find things directed towards her, toys and things that are intended or designed for girls. And so, yeah, it's just strange. Maybe if you're a woman and you're thinking about why didn't I grow an interest, or why wasn't there ever a large persuasion of rockets and space travel and space games in my life? But maybe you're a guy. Guy or girl, when you were a child, did you like space and rockets in the solar system? Quando você era uma criança, você gostou particularmente do espaço, do foguete, do sistema solar ou não? And finally, what is an interesting space detail, fact, or observation to you? What is an interesting space detail, fact, or observation to you? O que é detalhe, fato, uma observação interessante para você do espaço, do sistema solar, do universo? For me, I think time and space not really being different things is for me very fun to and mentally painful to think about. Time and space, that you can't have one without the other and you can't have the other without the one. So time and space for me is very interesting. Also, the idea that at the center of every galaxy there is a massive black hole, to me is, again, it hurts my head to think about, but I like thinking about it. So tell me anything else on space travel. That's a huge topic. There will be more headlines and episodes that include conversations about space. So don't blow your load here. There will be more. But any comments, anything, even a little bit related to space, please contribute, engage, and I will re engage with you. So thanks for listening to the English Language Learning Podcast. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, or if you didn't, leave a review, whatever. I'll read it, negative or otherwise. Just leave it.